Welcome to Network Africa. Coming up on the program, the Central Bank of Nigeria bans 9 commercial banks from forex transactions. We have the latest from our business news editor. And then the Olympics are over, but the Paralympics are just beginning, and Nigerian athletes hope to make us proud. And later, we'll look at some new controversial laws in Egypt as regards the construction of churches. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bisi Adibaya. Well, just yesterday, the Central Bank of Nigeria announced that it had barred 9 commercial banks from all foreign exchange transactions and operations for allegedly hiding about $2.12 billion belonging to the NNPC. At the time of the announcement, a source confirmed to Channels Television that President Muhammadu Buhari had been briefed on the matter and that sanctions would be imposed on the banks. They include 3 Tier 1 banks and 6 Tier 2 deposit money banks. The lenders remain barred until they fully remit the money into the Treasury single account. Well, Channels Business News Editor Bosin Amofaye joins me now in the studio for the latest developments with regards to this issue. Now, Bosin, the CBN yesterday says that it has barred 9 banks for failure to remit these funds, but we've had some of these banks reacting, saying they've actually remitted the money. So what is the true situation?
I think where we are now is that only one bank has, one of those 9 banks had confirmed full remittance back into the Treasury account. 2 other of the banks have said they're working on it. One of them says, look, we did not willfully conceal that the central bank, the NNPC, and they themselves were involved. They were all into this situation. They are aware of it, so there was no willful concealment of NNPC and liquefied natural gas money. And this has been a situation for about a year, in which about $6 billion had been paid down to $4 billion down. We have about $2.12 billion in balance. So right now, some news agency reports are saying, look, meetings going on between the central bank and the banks. Of course, you expect meetings to be going on as we speak. If you are shut out of the foreign exchange market, that is quite significant considering the type of banks we're talking about here. Liquidity is an issue. They don't want to run on the banks on the Naira assets or deposits that they have. Again, coming from the background of where we had been in recent times. So it's quite really tense right now. But again, there are words out there that the central bank should also try to temper justice with mercy, if I may use that phrase here at this point in time, knowing how fragile the economy is at this point in time, knowing fully well that there is lack of liquidity both in Naira and in dollar terms within the economy itself and from outside. On that basis, the words is out. Folks are really angry. Of course, everyone would be a little bit angry looking at the anti-corruption, transparency and accountability mantra of the current administration since May 2015. So to that extent, folks have said, look, no one should be allowed to hide any government funds anywhere. And of course, if you look at the NNPC regarding the stories over the last central bank administration regarding $20 billion, whether it was missing or not, and things like that, you can understand how sentiment had been on social media and in the news since yesterday in 24 hours over this particular matter. But I think that is being handled right now.
Now, looking at the current state of the foreign exchange market, is there any need for customers to panic over this news?
I don't really think so. If you look at the inward money transfer aspect or side of things, if you're not doing that transaction with Bank A, you can do Bank B or C. Gone are the days where you had only 2 or 3 banks in Nigeria doing the inward money transfer, what you call the overseas remittances. Now you have almost all the banks in that game. But again, everybody needs those very little money. I mean, banks and their customers as well. So I think it is time for everyone to, may I use the word, behave themselves, quote unquote, to make sure that no one gets hurt more than we're already hurting. And I think that is how I would rather put it.
Well, the Nigerian stock market has ended today's trading session. Has this in any way impacted on the banking stocks?
If you look at the banking index, up about 1/10%, that was good enough. Some of the banks that were named yesterday had their shares down. The others had their shares up. some of them quite significant. I don't want to mention names here, but overall, it's a bit of a balancing out. In terms of total market transactions, it wasn't significantly different from a Tuesday transaction. So the stock market itself was up about quarter of a percent, which was good enough. So the market didn't take that news of yesterday and run away with it. So there was no major sell-off on the shares of any of the banks as of today, looking at what the market closing numbers were.
Okay, now let's go back to the Forex market. How has the CBN fared in defending the Naira, especially this week?
It's a very difficult situation for the central bank. There's so much. It's a seller's market. Sorry, it's a buyer's market where we're not yet in the seller's market. Foreign portfolio investments haven't really come in the way we wanted. Of course, the central bank warned that this could be a little bit of a walk in the dark because it's a new market. Things were really tough before we put the new flexible FX market in place, so you don't expect that liquidity inflow from the dollar side to be that heavy. Folks are still watching how the fiscal authorities, that is the government at the center, will hold things very well and give a clear economic direction and action plans to where the country is going. Then the monetary policy will support that. And it was very good that President Buhari himself says a few days ago that, look, monetary policy is not enough to drive the economy. The fiscal side will do it, which means he's on the same page with the central bank governor as far as what to do is concerned. And I think the days and weeks ahead will provide more clarity as to where we are. But right now, the central bank is walking a very tight rope. There's no liquidity, and you can't give what you don't have.
Well, thank you very much, Wilson, for coming on the program. We have our eyes on the market, and we'll see as events unfold.
Thank you.
Well, staying on news about Nigeria's economy, the United Nations has issued a warning saying that Nigeria's economic slowdown, which has been compounded by Boko Haram attacks, could have devastating effects. Now, part of those consequences include the possibility of 5.5 million being in need of food aid by next month.
WFP has delivered food to 170,000 people in northeastern Nigeria, but hopes to reach 700,000 by year end. It is also providing aid to 400,000 people in the 3 other Lake Chad Basin countries, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger.
Because of Nigeria's economic downturn, the number of hungry people could double in the northeastern states that are already so heavily afflicted by the conflict. The drop in oil prices and the sharp rise in the cost of imported staples has compounded the years of violence that these poor people had to suffer. So we are concerned, our experts are warning, that it could go as high as 5.5 million people by next month.
According to the United Nations Refugee Agency, UNHCR, as government troops advance against the militants, the somewhat better access for aid workers on the military escort to Borno and Yobe states has exposed catastrophic levels of suffering and a vast regional crisis.
Present and with the military campaign.
UNHCR spokesman Adrian Edwards says the situation remains dangerous and volatile following an attack on an aid convoy last month.
There have been frequent hit-and-run incidents by militants, suicide bombings, attacks on civilians, torching of homes, thefts of livestock. On 27th of July, as you've heard here before, a UN convoy was attacked. This was with an improvised explosive device. With gunfire, it resulted in injuries to 3 humanitarians as well as to members of the military escort. The trauma levels just are astounding. We are seeing many women and girls recently released from Boko Haram. They are urgently in need of psychosocial support. Many of the women are pregnant. Some were Boko Haram wives. Many have given birth in the camps. They don't often want to speak openly to humanitarians. There needs to be really careful work done with these people.
He also said that armored vehicles and military escorts are urgently needed to provide protection for aid workers.
Still ahead on Network Africa, the Olympics are over, but the Paralympics are just beginning and Nigerian athletes hope to make us proud. Do stay with us.